Hi everyone. I hope that you come to this video in a very mindful and emotionally healthy place. However, I understand that there might be a chance that you came to this video because you were not in a mentally and emotionally healthy place. I know that it might be unorthodox to do an ASMR-centric video where we discuss a topic that isn't relaxing or a topic that might be upsetting to some people. But I felt like it would be important to make a video focused on grief, focused on the grieving process, and just openly discussing the role that grief can play in your life, in my life, in anyone's life. The purpose of this video stems from the fact that I feel personally, especially in the last week, that I have just been surrounded by separate incidents of grief being thrust into my life. I don't intend for this video to be just about me and my experiences. I want to make it a broader conversation, but to just share a tiny bit. Within the last week or so, I lost a family member. I lost my dog that I had for many, many years. A very close friend was diagnosed with a thankfully treatable form of cancer. And to top it off, earlier today I found out that a close friend would be losing his father soon due to medical complications. Now I think that's the end of what I would like to share about my experience. But I think it was important to state what launched this video, or the idea of me wanting to do an ASMR video centered on grief. Sometimes, when you're dealing with such heavy emotions, just hearing someone else discuss or talk about their experiences with those same emotions can be helpful or comforting. To know that you're not the only person in the world feeling what you're feeling. I think that grief, in many ways, can stem from feelings of isolation or the fear of isolation. Much grief stems from the fact that you've lost something or someone that you believe you'll never be able to get back. I know that personally, I've never found solace in religion when it came to grief. However, that's not to dismiss anyone's personal beliefs. It's just never been something that comforted me or worked whenever I was dealing with immense and heavy feelings of grief. However, you could look at the idea behind many religious ceremonies or traditions, such as funerals and and understand the core human principles behind why they work and could potentially improve the human psyche. Like we just discussed, it could really, really help you to just verbalize or hear that other people are feeling the exact same emotions that you're feeling in this moment. And what better place for humans to gather and discuss their grief than at a funeral? Personally, and this is a very, very weird sentence to say, but my favorite types of funerals are funerals where the grieving process heals so quickly that the guests can't help themselves but to bring up so many positive memories with the loved one that they have lost. I know that many people, especially more spiritually open-minded people, have started calling these ceremonies celebrations of life rather than funerals. Celebrations of life definitely has a more positive connotation, but the types of funerals that I just described, they essentially are the exact same thing. Rather than grieve what you've lost, celebrate what you've had. Now, I know that that is easier said than done, and that something like that can only come about once the grieving process has fully concluded. And perhaps coming to that conclusion is far more difficult if you've lost someone unexpectedly. Whether it was some freak accident or a medical issue, it's inherently harder to recover from losing someone that you weren't, quote unquote, supposed to lose in that moment in time. Now, I shared at the beginning of this episode that a close friend of mine received a cancer-related diagnosis. And thankfully, the doctors believe it is quite treatable. But it's very easy for your mind to go into a dark place and realize, what if I lost this individual? What if I lost them today? How would that impact my life? How would that impact my future? The things that I had planned with them, the moments that I can no longer share with this person that I truly and deeply care about. It's moments like this that allow you to completely recontextualize your life as it is. For loved ones to come together and voice their appreciation for one another. In the 21st century, especially in 2024, the year I'm recording this audio, life has never been busier. Work has never been such a huge component of people's lives the way it is now. Well, that might not be true, but the first part absolutely is. Noise is everywhere. Distractions are everywhere. And you have to work to survive, unless you're fortunate. With those factors, it is 100% understandable that we can forget the important human things in life. We can forget to tell loved ones that we care about them because unfortunately our schedules are too busy or too demanding. There's nothing preventing you from contacting that person that you're thinking about and letting them know that their friendship or their relation to you means something important in your life. Conversely, you often find that many people who have lost a loved one, for example, a mother or a father, will be the ones who are the first to encourage you to call that loved one. Tell them that you love them. If you're fortunate enough to still have one of your parents around, or even theoretically, if you're fortunate enough to have one of your grandparents around, it's easy to feel like they've been here forever and therefore they always will be. So take your time. You don't have to call them now. You can call them a couple days from now, maybe a week, maybe a month. You'll see them at Thanksgiving. You'll see them at Christmas. But grief is a firm reminder that that might not be the case. That living in the moment has never been more important. And because of the factors that I just described, I do feel immense sympathy both for myself or anyone else who has to work a 9 to 5 or longer to make a living for themselves, because it is inherently difficult to live in the moment in the same way we just described. If you constantly have to worry about your work and your payment and your bills and your rent and your food and your amenities and your utilities, it feels like you are constantly navigating a jungle with only a slight layer of protection. So you have to constantly be attentive so as to not lose that thin layer of financial protection. Maybe that example is a bit too personal. Maybe I'm just throwing myself in the example a little too much. But that's how I feel. And this is my ASMR video, so I could say what I want. It's not yours. And by that, I mean that you don't own it. It is yours in the sense that I made it for you. And I hope you're enjoying it. I hope it's relaxing. Or alternatively, if you need it to be, I hope that it's comforting. Empathy is a huge, huge part of the human experience. Very often, as you might know, if a close friend or family member is going through a stage of grief, very often the most important thing you could do for them is simply listen to them as they verbalize what they're feeling. You know, at work, I was really recently speaking to a gentleman who was talking about human connection, human conversation. And he told me that he thinks one of the kindest, most inexpensive gifts that you can give to someone is a session of conversation where you are genuinely, actively listening to what they're saying and hearing them. We all live in our own crazy bubbles of thoughts and consciousness. And sometimes we think that that's enough to show people what we're going through because here you are next to me. We're both experiencing the same things. You could kind of get an idea of what I'm experiencing. But the fact is that every human being experiences reality in a slightly different way. No two people, even two people that are going through the exact same experience, are going to perceive the same reality. Therefore, the only way to truly get your perspective into the brain of someone else is by verbalizing it. Exerbia, who is a very, very insightful content creator of which I'm a huge fan, he equates language to mind reading. And if you step back and you think about what language is, it's mind-blowingly true. Here we are as a species, and we've been fortunate enough to invent a system thousands and thousands of years ago where I make certain noises with my mouth, and all of a sudden you know exactly what thoughts and ideas I'm trying to pass along to you. And one of the craziest things is that it's entirely involuntary. If I say the phrase green apple to you right now, there's almost nothing you can do to stop yourself from picturing a green apple. In fact, you're doing it right now. You're picturing a green apple right now. Given that insanely advanced tool that we have at our fingertips, what better use of it than to describe some of the most deeply human experiences that we can have? Describing the impact of someone's loss to someone that we know wants to listen to us, a friend, a family member. Now, I understand that I just went on a very long and far too philosophical journey to just simply say the sentence, talk about it to someone, which might be true, but I feel like it had a greater impact. Whenever the news of your grief or your loss is public some way, whether it's social media or some other form, you always get the stereotypical responses of, hey, I'm always here if you need to talk. Here if you need to talk. Let me know if you need to talk. Well, why not take someone up on that? Especially if there's someone that you haven't talked to in a while and you wish to reconnect with. What better way to reconnect with an old lost friend or an old lost family member than by sharing a deeply personal and human experience with them in the hopes that it will improve your emotional state, in the hopes that it will improve your mental state. I think it's beautiful. And I know it is just like a passing cliche phrase, but every time I say something along those lines to someone, I make sure I mean it. I never want to say it unless I'm absolutely truthful and honest about it. And I always am. I hope that you understand that if you're in a dark place as a result of grief, that even though it feels like it's your entire world right now, even though it feels like this deep, depressive emotion that you feel is just the way you are forever, it's not. It'll pass and it'll hurt until it passes, but It'll pass. One of the most unfortunate parts of living in the now, living in the moment, is that for those of us truly living in the moment, experiencing this grief, it does feel permanent. It feels like this is the way you'll always be forever. The past is not tangible. The future is not tangible. Only the current moment that you're in as you hear these words is tangible. Only you can perceive it. And if that's the case, if only the present is how your emotions really feel when you check in with yourself, how lucky am I that you're here listening to me? I'm just a guy rambling into his microphone, sitting at his computer, trying to spread some love and peace and mindfulness into the void that is the internet. But you're listening. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I think that's been enough rambling about Greece for now. God, did I just say Greece? Wow. I was doing perfect this entire video. No stumbles, no wrong words, but I just said Greece instead of grief. And you know what? We've spent this entire time talking about deeply human moments. That I think what better way to end this than on a deeply human mistake. I would typically cut out something like that, but man, it's staying in, and I'm proud of it. Thank you again for listening. This has been Mindful Whispers. If you'd like more content, please consider supporting this page in free ways, such as liking, commenting, and subscribing to this channel. Thank you.